News out of Zacatecas tonight. Officials confirmed that hit squads from the Jalisco New Generation cartel have executed multiple truck drivers in a coordinated attack across 6 towns.
America's war on cartels just reached a new level of terror. El Mencho's hit squads unalived dozens of truckers in an act that experts say is a direct dare to Trump.
This resurgence has benefited Mexican drug cartels, notably the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, CJNG.
La madrugada de este viernes 3 de octubre se convirtió en una jornada de terror para el estado de Zacatecas, cuando grupos delictivos ejecutaron una serie de narcobloqueos simultáneos.
Buses, semis, and passenger cars were torched to metal skeletons, and the body count is still unclear. This was a message about domination. CJNG doesn't fear Trump, and they just proved it in the most brutal way possible. Here's why this happened, and all that's about to go down now. It started just after midnight, the kind of hour when no one suspects an army of sicarios setting fire to your car.
Los hechos comenzaron poco después de la medianoche, cuando civiles armados iniciaron una estrategia coordinada para retener automóviles particulares, autobuses de pasajeros y unidades de carga.
Within minutes, every major road in Zacatecas was blocked by fire. Yeah, they didn't just stop the cars. They set fire to everyone passing, everyone across 6 regions.
Los grupos delictivos ejecutaron una serie de narcobloqueos simultáneos que paralizaron completamente la movilidad en 6 municipios de la entidad.
There were at least 37 vehicles burned that night. Cars, buses, and semis hijacked, torched, and left smoldering across Calera, Fresnillo, Rio Grande, and more. Some of the attackers even laid down tire-shredding spikes to trap drivers before setting their rigs on fire. Civilians were forced out at gunpoint, some barefoot, some clutching kids as they ran from exploding gas tanks. Some didn't make it out alive. By dawn, the black smoke could be seen for miles. Schools suspended classes. Locals called it a day of terror. Authorities scrambled to restore order. The state security secretary, Rodrigo Reyes, announced a plan anti-bloqueos, deploying army units and the Guardia Nacional to clear roads and recover what was left of the trucks. But even by morning, dozens of motorists were still trapped between burning barricades.
Alrededor de las 7 de la mañana, todavía había automovilistas atrapados por esta situación.
People whispered that the attack wasn't random. It rarely is in those regions. This time, word spread that a rival group had entered Sombrerete, CJNG's territory, and Mencho's men retaliated by paralyzing the entire region in one coordinated act of terror. Videos surfaced online of masked sicarios laughing beside charred vehicles, waving rifles in the air as if to say, "This is our land." And somewhere behind those flames, people began to realize the message wasn't just for a local cartel. Mencho knew it would make the news in the US too. That's why experts now say El Mencho was taunting the one man threatening to destroy him, Donald Trump. Just days before the Zacatecas inferno, Trump appeared on national TV with that signature smirk and a big promise. He would unleash hell on the cartels.
Latin America's got a lot of cartels. They've got a lot of drugs flowing, so we want to protect our country. We have to protect our country.
It was no coincidence. Hours after those words aired, northern Mexico lit up in flames. And as smoke poured from the highways of Zacatecas, intelligence analysts said this looked a lot like a counterstrike, a televised message written in fire. Trump's warning wasn't just policy talk. He'd quietly signed an executive order letting the US military treat cartels like terrorists. That means drone strikes, raids, and covert surveillance were now on the table, even across borders.
This isn't a Mexican standoff, this is an order. The CIA is already flying surveillance drones over Mexican territory, gathering intel on the battle space.
Inside Washington, Fox anchors were already framing it like the start of a new war. One host said Trump wasn't sending diplomats. He was sending Hegseth instead, referring to Pete Hegseth, the former army officer turned political bulldog who'd just been tapped as defense secretary.
Our job is to ensure our enemies know exactly what they will do to them if they threaten us, up to and including total war.
Promises or threats, depending on where you're looking at it from. And in Zacatecas, the response came fast. Police later found banners hanging near the wreckage, the kind cartels use for narcomensajes, public declarations of power. They were written in bold black paint, signed with CJNG's initials. The message was clear: no gringo will decide Mexico's future. The siege had Mencho's fingerprints all over it. The synchronized roadblocks, the high-caliber weapons, and the military-style precision. His lieutenants wanted everyone watching Fox that night to see those fires and know exactly who was in control. Trump's allies, meanwhile, doubled down on live TV. They called the cartels armed terrorist organizations and said their good days are over.
Trump designated them terrorists, and if they get cute, They're getting Soleimani.
But while Trump is talking about drone strikes with or without Mexico's permission, Mencho is preparing his next move, and it's bound to be even more aggressive, because by now, it's personal. Trump didn't just hit him with a terrorist charge. He also hit him with an increased bounty, the biggest one yet. Trump's promise to unleash hell didn't just shake Mexico, but it put a price tag on it. After he took office, Trump raised the reward for information leading to the capture of Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes, El Mencho, to an unprecedented $15 million.
For the first time, cartel kingpin El Mencho tonight is a $15 million man. That is the U.S. government reward just increased.
Federal agents called it the biggest manhunt since El Chapo. But in Chicago, where Mencho's cartel controls entire neighborhoods through proxy gangs, they went further, naming him Public Enemy Number 1, the same label once given to Al Capone.
Such a huge bounty on such a physically insignificant man shows the intensity behind a fugitive manhunt for Chicago's Public Enemy Number 1.
And it's really not just Chicago anymore, but the entire United States. CJNG's reach had gone national, their fentanyl turning users into what cops now call walking dead. And federal reports say they've planted cartel cells in nearly every U.S. state, smuggling through ports, highways, and even suburban safe houses. In other words, El Mencho's shadow war has already crossed the border. That's what the increased bounty is saying. But it's also an open challenge, a headline designed to rattle Mencho's empire. And for a while, it did. Because just as the bounty was announced, Mencho's own family started to fall. His son-in-law, Cristian Fernando Gutierrez Ochoa, was arrested in Riverside, California, living under a fake name.
Mencho had helped Ochoa fake his own death, even claiming to have murdered him, so the son-in-law and his daughter could live outside the dangerous cartel world.
When agents raided the house, they found ghost guns, fake IDs, and cash bundles marked with CJNG's logo, proof the family business was still running strong, even from U.S. soil. The feds called it a breakthrough, but for Trump, it was also political ammunition. The capture reignited his campaign to treat cartels as foreign terrorist organizations, giving him legal power to target them with drones and special forces. Still, critics warned it wouldn't matter. The last time he tried it, cartel profits went up. Sanctions froze accounts, sure, but Mencho's people switched currencies overnight. And as the bounty posters spread, so did Mencho's message. The higher the price on his head, the more he'd burn. Trump's crackdown was supposed to cripple CJNG. Instead, it helped them evolve.
The use has increased by 154% since 2019. This resurgence has benefited Mexican drug cartels, notably the Jalisco New Generation Cartel.
When fentanyl became too risky to traffic, too many busts, too much political heat, Mencho's network pivoted back to white powder, flooding the US and Europe with shipments moving through Caribbean ports and Canadian routes.
But I mean, that's the Jalisco New Generation Cartel has been able to leverage the cocaine trade.
And this cartel expert takes it up a notch.
I mean, the Jalisco New Generation Cartel is the most international reach group out there.
This is a big statement, but according to DEA intel, it's true. As of 2025, the DEA admitted El Mencho is making upwards of $30 billion a year, and that's because they're diversifying. They are now operating in Africa, India, and Eastern Europe. And they are now laundering cash through Canadian shell companies tied to Vancouver ports.
We've seen Jalisco New Generation Cartel figures detained in India, right?
So yeah, Trump's sanctions and designations hit the headlines. But on the ground, nothing changed. Cocaine shipments hit record highs, and analysts warned that Mexico's economy was now so dependent on cartel cash that taking CJNG down could collapse the peso overnight. Here's what the DEA learned after they arrested Aguini, the CJNG's former financial boss.
If you pull every dollar that Aguini controls, or at least that he has a hand in, outside of the Mexican financial economy, the Mexican economy collapses overnight.
That's why even Mexico's own bank stayed quiet. No one wanted to admit how deep the system was buried in cartel money. CJNG is no longer just a drug empire. It's a thriving multinational.
These are Fortune 50 companies. I mean, these are insanely lucrative business.
And while Trump was busy waging war through sanctions, Mencho was busy conquering new territory, far from the desert, far from the border, somewhere colder, cleaner, and wide open. That's where the next front began, the northern one. While Trump's focus stays locked on Mexico, the real invasion is happening above, in Canada.
And they're just using the city and the port as a massive money laundering and drug production hub.
Investigators say both the Sinaloa and CJNG cartels have quietly taken over Vancouver's underworld, turning one of the cleanest cities in the world into a global narcotics hub. It's the perfect disguise, polite, peaceful, and packed with financial loopholes.
We don't even have a racketeering law in Canada.
What looks like an ordinary shipping port is now a superhighway for cocaine and chemical precursors bound for Asia, the US, and Europe. The same CJNG factions that torched highways in Zacatecas are now laundering millions through British Columbia shell companies.
Mexican drug cartels are rapidly expanding in Canada.
The investigator leading the probe said Canada is wide open, adding that Mexican cartels are working hand in hand with foreign intelligence networks.
They're being used at a higher level by the Chinese Communist Party, and the Chinese Communist Party, their home base for Western Hemisphere is in Canadian cities.
The connection runs deeper than drugs. Experts warn that cartels now use encrypted communication hubs built inside Canadian data centers, where they coordinate global shipments and monitor surveillance routes. So while Trump threatens airstrikes and promises to take the fight to Latin America, Mencho's men are already operating quietly, efficiently, and far beyond US jurisdiction, in Canada and beyond. So if the experts are right, the gunfire won't stop at the southern border. In fact, CJNG might be so deeply embedded around the world that the US's cartel war is completely futile. Here's how Trump's aggressive threats to Mencho might only make matters worse. Zacatecas is still smoldering, Canada's ports are compromised, and Trump, more defiant than ever, is moving from speeches to orders.
If their cartels are killing people in the United States and the MS-13 and Tren de Aragua gangs are, why can't we kill their leaders just the same way President Trump pointed out we took care of Soleimani?
That one line from a national broadcast summed up what's coming next: authorization for targeted killings of cartel leaders abroad. Behind closed doors, the CIA has already expanded surveillance operations over Mexican territory. Trump's administration is calling it a necessary escalation, saying Trump's new doctrine will take it to them because Americans are dying.
Just during the Biden administration, 400,000 people died of overdose deaths just in that 4-year term.
That's why Marco Rubio said,
we have to start treating them as armed terrorist organizations, not simply drug dealing organizations.
But intelligence officers warned that Mencho might actually want that. Every drone strike, every incursion across the border gives CJNG more power to rally recruits and justify chaos. His cartel is famously performative. Mencho's entire empire runs on terror optics, burned highways, mass executions, and public fear. That's exactly why analysts say the Zacatecas attack was meant for a wide audience. And now, they say he's planning even darker tactics, targeting civilian routes to provoke retaliation, with thousands of cartel cells active in the US.
Think about that, 168 different countries, and they continue to, cause chaos without, severe consequences.
Trump's team believes this new war will make America safe again. But the truth is, it's already spilling into every direction at once. Mencho's fighters in Mexico, his bankers in Vancouver, his smugglers in Texas, they all want the same thing: escalation. Because for Mencho, chaos is the business. The fear, the headlines, the retaliation, it all feeds the brand. So if Trump dares to bring the war to Mencho's front yard, he better be ready, because Mencho's already burning the backyard.